Here we go again. Yes. Now, actually, this is take 2 of this podcast. First ever time I've had to do it. I've had to stop because I used my real name. And I don't normally use my real name. So yes. But so I said in the first take that I've turned the washing machine off. So you don't get the noise of a washing machine. You might hear some teenager-y like shoutiness in the background. That's because they're playing Xbox. And I'm hiding in the kitchen this evening. This is the late night podcast. Not the not safe for work one. We haven't really, well, I say we a lot, don't I? That's like I'm schizophrenic. Probably I am, but that's between me and myself. But yeah, I'm not quite sure. Yeah, so everything's calm, everything's quiet, I'm here. I was going to say how I'm doing really, I feel like we're doing quite well. We've got 20-ish unique hits. We've got like 4 subscribers. We've got 5 regular listeners, apparently, which is quite exciting. So I'm really chuffed. I'm sure you all get bored of it and float away with my general ramblings, but unless you listen to this at night, and then hopefully you're there with your sherry on your sofa with a log burner, because we're all middle-aged, so I presume. So we're all just there with our blankets, just enjoying. We've listened to some vinyl, and we're just choosing biscuits. We've had our cheese and biscuits. And we're just, maybe a bourbon. Maybe we've had a bourbon biscuit. Just gone a bit cheeky, had a bourbon biscuit, and drinking some alcohol. And just relaxing in the evening to my dulcet tones. Yes, I was going to say that it's all quite exciting. But someone did mention that sometimes the podcasts seem like I'm not into doing the podcast. And it's a bit of an odd one because I can't really, I can explain it, but I can't. I have a history of mental illness, which I've never hidden from people. And I'm depressive. So I've been off for a couple of weeks because I really couldn't cope with existence. So that's why we've had lots of podcasts. And I started doing this podcast. But I went back to work for a couple of days, for the last 3 days. And that's actually been quite tough on me, mentally, because it's that balance between home life and real life. And things that are going on in my existence means that I'm more down when I am up. So sometimes the podcasts seem like I'm not into them. And it's not that. It's just I'm not into life at that moment in time. I'm just not enjoying existing. Which is really sad to say, but quite often I don't. But that's just life. Anyway, so that's the sad bit. And we've done that. So hopefully people understand that there will be some quieter, less jovial podcasts than there will be. And there will be happy ones. And there'll be absolutely mental ones when my tablets are wearing off and they're not controlling me. So yeah, so where were we? He was pissing on his comb, wasn't he? There we go. Right, we're on page 25. It's a read along from page 25. If you get your books out, kids, get your books out. Let's turn to page 25. And shall we start reading, as the teachers would say. So, he had a fleeting thought as he finished relieving himself. Again, are we talking about masturbation? I'm not going to lie about the words now. I just can't help it. Perhaps he could get the comb out and clean it up. Maybe not. He started to move his hand down to the urinal as if he was going to retrieve the comb, but then he stopped in his tracks as he realised that his actions would be rather stupid and disgusting. Shit, bloody shit, he shouted as he looked down at the comb. Right, okay. Seriously, who actually owns a comb nowadays? Does anyone actually own comb? Do people have combs? Is it a thing still? I wouldn't even know where to go and buy a comb. I bet it's like, I imagine that Trev would have a tortoise shell. It would be a tortoise shell kind of Bakelite style. Not that you can get Bakelite style combs anymore. Probably missing one or two teeth. Maybe, I would imagine it's got bent teeth in it. You know when it's been, you used to get these combs that was like slightly warped. I imagine it's like that. All right, just a few more. Oh, okay. So shit, bloody shit, he shouted as he looked down at the comb. Just then, a few more guys entered the lav. Trevor zipped himself up and walked to the sinks. Well, yeah, it's probably best not to walk along with your cock out, mate, to be honest. So it's good that it was pointed out that he zipped himself up, because we'd all be thinking, wouldn't we, what's Trevor doing walking around with his cock out? He rinsed his fingertips. because he only touched his cock with his fingertips and tidied his hair as best he could with his hands. Really? Just what? I'm sorry, this has just gone vulgar. It's because I'm tired. It's gone vulgar, hasn't it? As he walked over to the hand dryers, one of the other guys stepped up to urinal that Trevor had just left. Hello, he said. Someone's been combing their pubes at this urinal. Posh sod. The others leant over to look into the urinal and laughed. I wonder if he parted his hair on the left or the right, remarked one of them. I suppose it depends on whether he hangs to the left or the right, another said, to the chorus of laughter. Well, unless he shaves his balls, well, then he probably doesn't. Trevor swiftly finished drying his hands and smiled at the remarks that had been made, thinking to himself that at least a few people got a laugh out of it. Well, only in the book. He made his way to the exit, but as he reached the door, his foot slipped again. Bloody hell, he said to himself under his breath as he regained his balance. Seriously, are we meant to be thinking, oh my God, he could slip at any moment, and thus start the proper story? He emerged from the lavatory and glanced around at the people milling about in the foyer in the effort to locate Jane. On seeing her on the other side of the foyer, he gestured a small wave to her and made his way over to her. Okay, so he gestured a small wave to her and made his way over to her. He didn't. Is that a lot of hers in that? As he got closer, he could see that she had already brought the tickets for the film and was holding them in her hand. But once again, his foot slipped on the carpet surface of the foyer, and though he managed to recover his composure. Are you okay? Asked Jane, in response to seeing him slip. Yes, I'm fine. It's the new shoes. The leather's still shiny on the soles, and now one's wet. It's slipping all over the place. I thought I'd be all right walking on the carpet, but it must be made of nylon, so it's slippery against the wet sole. Those nylon carpets are so slippy. Well, watching the film will give you a chance to dry off, said Jane. They started to walk to the appropriate screening room. It's always good when you walk to the appropriate one, not the inappropriate one. Can I request that you refrain from audience participation, Jane said. Pardon, he asked. You know, remember the time you were watching a film and the daughter pinned her mother against the back of the door by throwing 3 knives at her, and you shouted out of the top of your voice, 180! As if you were comparing a darts match down the pub. Oh yes, Trevor sniggered, but that was a one-off. That's not actually funny. Seriously, do people... Just really? Right. If I was in the cinema when someone did that, then that's the reason I buy minstrels. So I buy minstrels in the cinema because they're really good projectiles to throw at people because they're obviously a crispy shell. If you throw a Malteser, they don't travel as well because they've got a bit of air resistance because of the matness of the chocolate, but they do melt when they land on people. But with a minstrel, you can actually fire that actually spins through the air if you get it right, and it ricochets off people. Much more fun. Not that I would recommend anything like that. A female attendant was sitting on a chair outside the screening room. She stood up as Jane approached. Jane handed the tickets to her. The attendant glanced at the tickets, promptly tore them in half, looked at the seat numbers and handed back one portion to Jane, saying, middle of the 3rd row down from the back on the right. Well, yeah. Mm-hmm. As Trevor and Jane walked into the fairly full screening room, the house lights were still on, and a further female attendant looked at the tickets and ushered them to a particular row that the seats were in. There's a lot of female people going on in this. Jane checked the seat numbers again. Against those on the tickets, and they both sat down and generally made themselves comfortable. And so waited for the film to start. Trevor suddenly remembered something. "I forgot the popcorn and drinks," he said, looking Jane's way. "A couple of Cokes and toffee-flavoured popcorn?" Question mark. "Oh, yes, please," Jane said, smiling and feeling somewhat pampered. There's nothing better than some popcorn and some Cokes to feel pampered. You know what, when someone brings me toffee-flavoured popcorn, I obviously feel pampered. I feel like, ooh, what a treat that is. As Trevor stood up from his seat and confirmed the full order with her, "So that's a thin Coke for you, a fat Coke for me, and a big bucket of toffee popcorn for both of us." Jane nodded and smiled. Now, since this has been a bit of a lowbrow episode, sorry about that. Do we have a quick debate on whether he takes the popcorn and makes a hole in the bottom and puts his penis through it? So when she takes a popcorn, she grabs his cock. Who knows? But I feel like I've really said all the wrong things today in this one. I think I'm going to have to press that adult button, aren't I? Oh, God. Jane nodded and smiled. I bet she did. She knows what is going to happen. He turned towards the end of the row and started making his way past the couple who had just sat down in the same row. They stood up to allow Trevor to squeeze through. There's a fine bit of information there. He smiled at them as a gesture of thanks, but as he passed them, his foot slipped on the carpet of the slightly sloping floor. In the confined space between the two rows of seats, he had no chance of putting his other leg out to steady himself. He literally did the splits as he fell on the floor, and then, as if in slow motion, he thought about what he could grab hold of to break his fall. But his thoughts on recovery actions came too late, as his forehead rather solidly hit the arm of one of the seats with a muffled thud. Now, I really thought this was going to go a little bit south, to be honest, and thought that he was going to end up grabbing the couple in a rather dubious way. But obviously not. And he literally did the splits. Not just did the splits, but he literally did them. Just in the proper literal way. Not did the splits, literally did the splits. Literally. Quite literally, he did the splits. Literally did the splits. Not just the splits. Literally did them. Trevor opened his eyes to see Jane looking down at him, or rather, two Janes looking down at him. That's a bit awkward. Why? Okay. His head felt sore, and as his double vision merged into single vision, he's got double vision, he realised that he was lying on the floor of the auditorium, where he had originally fell, looking up between two rows of seats. "Are you okay?" Jane inquired with a very concerned voice. Trevor then became aware of the other people standing around looking down at him. "Yes, I think so," he replied, as a sharp pain in his head made him wince. "Have you tried to get up?" He tried to get up, but found himself being manhandled to his feet by a couple of women who had kindly come to his aid. Once on his feet, Jane took hold of him under his right arm to support him. Let's get you out here until you're a little better," she said in a rather strong, dictatorial voice. We're already seeing Jane's manning up. I think we can see where this is going. She pushed open the door with her arm while still supporting Trevor with the other one. She's suddenly become very strong. Once outside, Trevor saw that a male attendant had replaced the lady who was there previously. "Here we are, sir. Take a seat," the attendant said, on seeing that Trevor was being helped along by Jane. "Now I'll be all right." "No, I'll be all right," Trevor replied. "Now sit down," Jane said firmly, but compassionately. Firm, but with compassion. That's what you want in life, isn't it? Firm, but with compassionately as well. Compassionately. Trevor obeyed. Jane knelt down so that she was the same level as Trevor's head, rather than his nipple. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Okay, apart from a surging pain at the front of my head," he replied. "Have you got any double vision?" asked Jane. "I did have, but now it's gone." "Well, I don't think sitting through a film and all the loud sound from that soundtrack is going to be any good for you at all, Jane said. No, I suppose not, Trevor agreed. I think it's best that I just take you home, she said. Trevor tried to gently smile at her, realising how thoughtful she was. Yes, okay, he replied, thinking to himself that he didn't really want to see the film in the first place, and if the pain in his head cleared up swiftly, he could go for a drink down the pub with Dave and Pete. There we go. He's a man of thinking about the pub. Now just sit there, I'll be back in a minute, Jane said, as she stood up and started to smartly walk away. Why, where are you off to? Trevor asked. Don't worry, I'll be back in a minute, she called, back over her shoulder. The attendant knelt down by the side of Trevor. Are you all right, love? The attendant asked in a quietly spoken, lightly effeminate, but concerned voice. Oh, jeez. Trevor immediately thought to himself, this guy's a homosexual, and replied in a serious, indignant and deliberately deep voice to reflect his heterosexual persuasion. Oh, fucking hell. Seriously? This isn't real. This book's not true. How? How can you think this is fine? Even in 2013, that was 11 years ago, and it wasn't fine then. If this book was right in the 1970s, I'd let you off. But really? Yes, I'm all right, thank you very much. What did you do? Inquired the attendant, once again in an effeminate voice. I need to do these in the proper voices, don't I? I fell over and whacked my head on one of the arms of the rests. Ooh, nasty. Does your head hurt? If you like, I can get you a paracetamol from the medical cupboard, said the attendant. Now, right, this is how we know it's not real. They're not allowed to give paracetamol out because you could be allergic. So we all know that medical cabinets aren't allowed to have paracetamol or ibuprofen or anything like that in case you're allergic. Not even allowed those fabric. You have to have anti-allergy plasters nowadays as well. So we know this is all made up. No thanks, I'll be all right, Trevor replied, making sure once again that he put on a strong masculine voice. This is my masculine voice, I rely you, darling, away. Well, at least you didn't cut your head, the attendant said. Oh, hold on, should we try it this time? Well, at least you didn't cut your head, the attendant said. That's a bit Welsh, isn't it? That's a bit wrong. Sorry, do apologise to all the Welsh people listening. Not that any Welsh people are probably listening. Let's face it, no one ever listens, really. They're just being polite. Trevor looked up and saw Jane walking towards him rather quickly, grinning like a cat that's just got the cream. As she got closer, she waved a couple of £10 notes in her hand. I've got my money back, she said. Trevor was somewhat confused. What? He said in disbelief. I've just had a nasty whack on my head, and all you're concerned about is getting your money back. Oh, there's plenty of people outside wanting to see the film, replied Jane. It seems a shame to lose the money. Fully justifying her actions. Come on, she said. Let's get you home. Right, we've made it to page 32. This is brilliant. Actually, this is actually getting... Oh, no, we can't read anymore. But let's just say the next few words are manhandled. And then have we got any more... literally, there's lots of just the whole thing's just. She even suddenly is able to drive properly. This is just like stereotypical trash, isn't it? I kind of miss Mills and Boons. I might have a Mills and Boon somewhere. We need to find the Mills and Boon book. Maybe that'll be the next one. Because we can just laugh at that one. But with these types of books. But that's the problem with self-published books. Everyone has a book in them, and maybe they shouldn't. And that book inside them should be buried deep within their face. Yeah. But anyway. Right, well, that's it for me. I'm going to go to bed, have a sleep. I think about time I slept, maybe. Don't know. It's 10:15, so number one son needs to go and brush his teeth after he's played Xbox, so I can't hear any noise, so he's obviously finished. And I've got to take people swimming in the morning, swimming lessons, the joy of being a father, swimming lessons on a Saturday morning, and then birthday parties all Saturday afternoon. So hopefully we can find some time to do some more. Anyway, we've made it to 20 minutes, so let's not waste my time. My time? Your time. Let's not waste anyone's time. Enjoy your day, or evening, or night, as the case may be. And I will speak to you again. Ta-ra for now.